Hi everyone, it's Rachel back with the Shades of Orange, and today I'm here to do my favorite backlist fantasy. This means fantasy that was published prior to 2022, and I always say that I'm more of a science fiction reader, but I had an amazing year when it comes to fantasy books, and so I have a whole top 10 list here, and of course this is part of a larger best of the year series, so I'm going to have links down below to the other videos, and they're going to become available in the coming weeks. I've already posted my science fiction backlist video, so definitely go check that out if you missed it. And besides that, I have some great books to talk about. I'm still under the weather, so bear with my voice, but let's get started. First, at the number 10 spot, we have Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer, and this is an epic fantasy book. It's the start of a new series that follows a neurodiverse boy who appears to be on the autism spectrum, and he has an obsession with knots, and is a little bit of an outsider because of his atypical behavior and mannerisms. However, a mage comes to his town and realizes that he has incredible potential, and so he takes him away to magic school along with his friend, and he learns how to use his knot-making ability and basically use it to create magic. And as the title of the book suggests, this book has dragons, which I love to see. As many of you know, neurodiversity in my books is something that's now very near and dear to my heart, so I really enjoyed that aspect to this book. I will say that it's very all ages, so it's very safe and appropriate, and it is very tropey, so you will know what is going to happen if you're familiar with a coming of age chosen one type narrative, but I thought it was very well done, and I'm very excited to see where the series is going to go, because I thought it was a really strong debut for this series, but I really think that my love of the series is largely going to depend on the development of the main character, so I can't wait to see him grow and really become more confident in the later books. But needless to say, I definitely recommend it. It's in my top 10, and so I hope you check it out. Then at number 9, I want to talk about the Chorus of Dragons series that starts with Ruin of Kings, all by Jen Lyons. This is the first book, which is where you want to start, but if we're talking about best and favorite books, my personal favorites in the series was the second book, The Name of All Things, and probably my top favorite was this middle book, The Memory of Souls. And this is a story that is told from multiple points of view, hence the Chorus of Dragons, and so we get all these different narrative voices. The story is really funny, which is actually a lot different than some of the books I'm normally drawn to. I typically like really dark, depressing stories, but the humor in this one just worked really well. It was so much fun. I think that Jen Lyons is just an incredible storyteller, because despite the fact that these books are really large, and there are 5 of them, the last book came out this year, I found the series to be just incredibly bingeable. I just read them back to back and I just wanted to know what was going to happen next. This book also has some great elements involving diversity of sexual orientation and gender, and it's very much on the page, which sometimes can be a little bit in your face, but it's done so well in a way that's so funny that I really enjoyed how it was played into the story. So just know that that is in there, but I thought it was very well done. And again, if you're looking for something more kind of light and entertaining, this series really captured my heart, and I had so much fun reading it. Then at number 8, we have Upon a Burning Throne by Ashok Banker, and this is an epic Indian-inspired fantasy series that follows a few different perspectives. The main setup for this is that at the beginning of the story, they are trying to choose the next heir, which involves putting these infants into this fire and of course not having them burn. And so there are a few different candidates, and through the events of the first few chapters, you find out that these 2 young men are going to rule together. Typically there's only one heir, but because one is albino and one is blind, they are not seen to be fit to rule by themselves and are not considered to be whole persons. And so the story goes from there. So in a lot of ways, this has a wonderful framing of a story where there are different groups and factions fighting for control of the empire, fighting for the throne. I think it's very classic narrative, but feels very fresh because of the Indian cultural elements to it. I think it had some great elements and conversations surrounding, again, disability and diversity, and also was very feminist. There's some really strong female characters in this series. This is my favorite book, which is the debut or start of the series, but I have read the later books on, and I really enjoy it and do plan on continuing. So I think, again, if you're looking for diverse, unique fantasy, this is definitely one you want to check out. The character work is great, and the plot is very fast and moving and very action-packed. And then at number 7, I want to talk about Crucial Start by Jacqueline Carey. This is the first book, which I really enjoyed, as well as the second. I do want to give a nod to Crucial's Chosen, which was a fantastic sequel. And this is a story that follows a woman named Phaedra, who is trained to be a concierge, or a very high-class prostitute, let's say. And so within her training, she's actually cross-trained to be a spy. And so she uses her position and her sexual prowess to get information. And so this book is packed with political intrigue. The character work is great. I love the world building. And it's very low in terms of the actual magical elements, but I like how they're woven into the story because it's kind of woven into this like BDSM style narrative where with pleasure comes pain. And I thought this book, I'll be honest, was going to be super, super cheesy, but I had to check it out. And I was wonderfully surprised how complex, how well designed it all was. I have mixed feelings about the companion series that go along with this, but this original trilogy I thought was very well done. I love the first book. I thought it was a great setup. And I think I even love the second book more because it has more of like a pirate element and involves a certain trope that I particularly love in books, which I probably shouldn't spoil. But yeah, I love this one. So highly recommend this series. Again, I think from the covers and everything, people tend to see it as fantasy romance, and while it definitely has a romantic element to the story, it's definitely first and foremost fantasy, epic, and the world building, characters, all of that is really incredible, and it's definitely worth the hype. There's a reason that this is a bestseller series, and I would love more people and newer readers to check it out. And then at number 6, we have Master of Poisons by Andrea Hairston. And this is a book that I just talked about in a recent wrap-up, so I'll keep it quick. But this is an epic standalone fantasy that follows an exile who is trying to help their homeland. And you find out that the world is just dying. The farmland is turning to dust, the water is becoming undrinkable. And so it's almost a little bit of a post-apocalyptic future where you really see that the earth is dying. But magic still exists, it's just difficult to capture. And so we follow this character as they are trying to, again, save their world. And so it seems like a very classic setup, but the book itself felt so unique, so fresh. And what I loved most about it was the world building, which completely captured my attention. It reminded me a lot of something like N.K. Jemisin, where you really have to take your time and learn about the world organically. It's not just told to you through info dump. Instead, you really have to spend your time and learn the different words and what their meaning is and so forth. And I just really fell in love with this book. I inhaled it so quickly. I want to reread it. Highly recommend this one. I feel like it's a hidden gem on this list, and I would love to see more people picking it up. I say that about every book on this list, but that's why I do this channel, is because I love to share my favorite books with other people and hopefully get them to read them as well. And then breaking into the top 5, we have Perdido Street Station by Chana Miéville, and this is a highly political fantasy sci-fi story that's more fantasy, so I'm putting in this video. But this is a fantasy story that is weird and dark. It's set in an otherly world where we follow a few characters. We follow a man named Isaac, who is this scientist, and he has his girlfriend who is not human herself. And this book is set within a world and a city where there's prejudice and oppression. And so again, this book really deals with a lot of ideas around society and how we structure ourselves. And I thought that it has some really interesting messaging within it. And the book itself is fantastic because, again, it really blurs the line between genres. I would say first and foremost, it is fantasy, but there are definitely science fiction elements, which I love as a sci-fi reader. And there's also horror elements, which I also love. And so I really enjoyed the world building. I thought that was my favorite element. It was just so unique, so different, and really unexpected. I picked up this book and I didn't really know what I was going to get. And this is definitely a heavy book. There's a lot to consume in it. I think it's a book that I would like to reread in the future because I still don't quite even know quite how I feel about it. It's actually a book that I penciled in for my number 1 spot. I thought this was going to be my favorite of the year, but when I read it, I liked it, but it didn't quite make that list. At this point, it's sitting at number 5, so that's where I'm going to call it for this video. But again, given another reread, I could see myself loving this book more and more and it becoming like an all-time favorite. So definitely recommend this one. I would love to read more China Miéville next year. Then at number 4, we have The Rise and Fall of the DoDo by Neil Stephenson and Nicole Galland. And this is a really fun fantasy story, which once again has slight elements of science fiction. In this book, we follow a group of individuals, a society that is trying to bring magic back into the world. It used to exist, but it has fallen away. And so they end up time traveling within the book to go back in time and meet with witches and try to again rekindle the magic of the world. And this book is just incredibly fun. It is a book that is unwieldy and goofy and smart all at the same time. I really have fallen in love with Neal Stephenson. He might have made appearances in another video that I filmed for Best of the Year, which you've probably already seen, so I just am loving everything I'm reading by him these days. This is a book that I read once and I liked it, and then I read it again and I fell in love with it and knew that it had to be on this list because it's just so fun. I'm not always someone who loves things that are traditionally classified as urban fantasy, but this book I think will appeal to those of you like myself that more are drawn to epic fantasy because of the way it's done. It's just so out of the box, it's so original, so entertaining, and you can definitely see the Neal Stephenson influences within this book because there's some great commentary on scientific ideas, and I could just listen to that man or hear this man or read this man talking about science all day long, so I really enjoyed this one. Highly recommend it. I thought it was so much fun and I can't wait to read it again. And then at the number 3 spot we have The Gutter Prayer, which is the first book in a trilogy, and within this first book it starts out with us following 3 characters that are going to commit a heist. Something goes terribly wrong, a bomb goes off, and some of them get captured and then some of them get to escape and run away. What I love about this book is that it doesn't just follow human characters, so we do follow a human thief, but we also have another character who's known as Rat, and we also have another character who is more of a stone man, so think of kind of like the stone or dragon scales from Game of Thrones, very similar to that. So I love the fact that this world has some really creative character work, some characters that are just, again, not human and very different than what we normally see. So I thought this book was incredibly creative in terms of this world building. And then on top of that, you also have this whole other element to the story where there are gods that exist, and within the world, they are able to manifest the bodies of individuals who are considered saints and use them as kind of outlets to walk among us in the world. And so this book just has some really big, cool ideas. It's, again, something that is hard to compare to other books because it's so different, so unique, and I absolutely love. This is my favorite book of the trilogy. I think it is nearly perfect, and I really love it a lot. I would love to see more people checking it out. I've got to stop saying that. I can't stop saying this in this video, forgive me, but really go read it, I mean it. And then at the number 2 spot we have Gunmetal Gods, which is a Middle Eastern epic inspired fantasy series, and what I love about this one is that it's told over 2 dueling perspectives. This book is set in a world that is very much inspired by the events of the Crusades of our history, and so we follow 2 men, one who is on one side of the war and one who's on the other, and because of the setup, because of the nature of the Crusades, I think readers are naturally going to be drawn to one perspective because, well, the other perspective is very morally gray, let's say. And if you know my taste in books, you know that I love books that really deal with morally ambiguous characters, and I like to cheer for the bad guys, so I thought this book was incredibly interesting. I love the first person perspective because I really felt like I got inside the mind of each of these individuals, and on top of that, the world building was vast and fantastic, and really I just want to see more of it in the later books. Definitely recommend this one. I feel like not enough people are reading it, and I really hope I can help to change that because I found it to be such a gripping book. It's in the number 2 spot for a reason. I love it so much. I can't wait to read it and hope that more of you give it a chance because it definitely is worth whatever hype I can give it today. And finally, at the number 1 spot, I want to talk about The Mirror Empire by Cameron Hurley. This was the book to beat all year for Backlist Fantasy, and obviously nothing touched it. This book is incredible. I think it is so underhyped. I don't know why this is not on everyone's favorite fantasy list because this is the first book of a trilogy. My favorite is the first book, but I definitely recommend continuing on to The Empire Ascendant and The Broken Heavens, all of which were fantastic. But this is a fantasy series that has almost an element of science fiction to it because it involves multiverses. The basic setup is that there is a child that is escaping their reality and ends up tripping and going into another one. And what I love so much about these books is, first and foremost, the world building, again, is vast, and you have this like catastrophe that's on the edge. This book gave me serious vibes of the Broken Empire trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. It's not a copycat, but if you like the elements of that book, you will love this series as well. I love the characters who were interesting and complex, and I gotta give a content warning because, oh my goodness, these books are brutal. They do not shy away from the ugliness of society. It deals with oppression depression and abuse, and basically every difficult topic is in this book and in this series. But I love books like this. So I found the world building to be rich. The characters were developed and complex, and they just weren't like black and white as you would expect in other books. So I just thought that this was, incredibly well done. And I don't know why there are not more readers screaming about these books online, because I'm obsessed with them. I desperately want to reread this trilogy, and I just, love it so much. Highly, highly recommend it. My #1 backlist fantasy book all year, and nothing could touch it. This was so perfect. Highly, highly recommend. All right, so that's it for this video here. I'd love to know of the books I talked and gushed about. What books are you planning on checking out for yourself next year? And I would also love to hear, is there a fantasy book that you read that was published prior to 2022 that you loved, because maybe I can check it out in the future? And don't forget that if you enjoy videos like this, I do have a whole playlist of best of the year content that is going to be coming out from now until the end of the year. I'm going to have some links down below. And if you don't want to miss any videos, the best way to do that is to subscribe. So if you want to consider that, I do read a lot of horror, thriller, science fiction, fantasy, and true crime. And if you want to help me out with this video, I very much appreciate it. You can give this a thumbs up, share it around online, drop a little comment, even if just a little emoji like a castle or a dragon. And if you want to hit that little notification bell, you'll never miss a video from me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.